正题。不要按错。
Yeah, no, it's a like
I just want to make sure.
I don't
No, actually, if you go over that brochure, then I will. Like you don't need. If I have it on my laptop, you like. Can't watch it. Yeah.
Oh, that's better. Yeah.
我打桌子，
我
在厕所。就这样翻译。啊，有时候能听到，对，然后听到打。这个台词被打到我。好打不到。这个。
All the other rooms. I'm just stupid.
有问题不啦？你给后面，把后面帮我守住。别地面，我妈这么多歌。算。
我只剩
把那个给他写说话。
你觉得是现实？
你喝完了，
可能是
可以喝反面的。
这三代一口，那滚多三，我他拉图他。这要不然滚到给他们滚。别拉错，完了拉错。我的妈呀！哪这旁边？没有，你就4000年。在那干嘛？哦，你没找到？哦，对，耳机。但他我给你，下来我给滚。
Hi everyone. If you guys can just look up on the screen here, we're gonna get started. Okay, so basically this right here is a little event brochure that one of our curriculum team members made. And essentially what this is like, these are all of the different events within business operations research. So we have hospitality and tourism, which focuses on like hotels and like vacation-esque like things in that aspect. And then we have sports and entertainment marketing, which is pretty self-explanatory. And then there's also business service operations, and then there's buying and merchandising operations research, and then there's finance operations research. Finance tends to be one of the most difficult but the least competitive, and then like buying and merchandising and hospitality and tourism are like the least difficult but the most competitive because more people do them. Okay, and then this is the content that your business operations research event is going to have. So it is a 20-page written report. And basically what the purpose of this project is that you choose an actual business and then you do research on that business. You come up with a plan for that business to like improve their operations. So a lot of people do like interviews and they interview like the manager or the employees in the business that they're doing research on. So if you guys have like relatives or like family friends or even parents that run businesses, it's probably a good idea to choose those businesses as like the one you're doing your project on, because that's like easily accessible for you. So for example, my freshman year, one of my group members, like her mom was a dentist and owned her own dentist office. So we did like our project on the dental office, and then we were able to like interview employees there like really easily because we had that connection. So all of these are like, wait, should I turn off the lights? All of these are going to be like the content for the written. So in your group, you're going to have 1 to 3 participants. You guys should already have those groups by now. You are going to write a 20-page report, which I said already, and then present to a judge, and then you have a 15-minute limit. Now, usually those 15 minutes are going to be 10 minutes of you doing the actual presentation, and then leaving 5 minutes for the judge to ask questions. 5 minutes kind of seems like a long time for a judge to ask questions, but like a lot of judges, their questions will just lead you onto a tangent, and you might need like 3 to 5 minutes to have like a discussion with your judge. Any questions so far? Okay, cool. So this is going to be the content of your written. So first you're going to have an executive summary, which is a 1 to 3 page description of the project. Now the way the executive summary works is like, it's probably one of the most important parts of your written, mainly because I know that a lot of DECA judges choose to only read the executive summary and then skim the rest of the written report. So your executive summary is going to be really vital in basically saying like what the rest of your report is going to be about. And you'll have your introduction. You describe the business or the organization, and then you're going to describe like your target market. So for example, like for the dental office, the target market is probably going to be like parents and families, because that's who you want to target. You can get more customers in one. And then like you describe that target market, why that's the target market. Like for example, like if it's a Vitality Bowls, your target market's probably gonna be like young adults and people who are into like health foods. And then you're gonna have an overview of the business or organization's current employee experience. So you're gonna talk about like, how is the business like before we did our whole research project and before we did the plan. So like for the dental office, like our plan was like a security plan. So our like overview of the current employee experience was like, the security isn't good enough. So like sometimes like people are like just walking into the office when they're not supposed to be there. And that was like part of our description. Okay, and then you're gonna do your research methods. That's number 3, which is the description and rationale of research methodologies selected to conduct the research study. So if you do interviews, you're gonna talk about interviews. If you did a survey for the employee, you're gonna talk about your survey. And then B, you're gonna do like the process used to conduct the selected research methods. So you can say, oh, we did like a paper survey, or we did a Google Forms survey, or something like that. And then number 4 is your findings and conclusions. So what did you find out from this business? What did you find out this business like needs to improve in? Like you could say, oh, like we need this like food place needs like to do a better job of following health codes. So that's something that you can do. And then after you come up with those findings and conclusions, you've established like what the problem in the business is. And then you're going to come up with number 5, your proposed strategic plan. So what can this business do to fix whatever you found, and how can you improve overall as a business? And then 6 is like, oh, and then for 5, you're going to want to come up with like a timeline. Probably do the timeline within like 1 to 3 years. Don't make it super like unrealistic. You're not going to be like, we want this business to improve over like the next 20 years, because then the judge is just going to kind of be confused. And then you talk about like, what are our performance indicators? So, you know, less people are leaving bad reviews of the food. So that's our performance indicator. If there's less bad reviews, that means our performance is better. And then 6 is going to be your proposed budget. So this is just you to talk about like, what are the costs with these strategies? We need a new security system. That's going to cost this much money. And then 7 is your bibliography. That's just all your sources that you used for all your research. And then 8 is just going to be your appendix, which is optional, which it does say up there. But like in the appendix, you would just include anything that isn't important enough to include in the actual body of the written. So like if you have like sample questionnaires, so for example, if you ask like interview questions, you put those in the appendix. Like this is an example of the questions that we asked the business manager. And then all of like the general background information that you might have received if you like met with the people who the business. So yeah, that is it for like the content.
Okay, and then now we're gonna go over kind of how this applies to an actual written. So I'm gonna be showing you my written from last year. Okay, so here is my written. So you can see, this is just the cover page, and then here is the table of contents. So you can see all the content that Siona just talked about, you're gonna have to put into your table of contents. So just make sure that you have all the content there that the judge wants. So this is just basically copy and paste of what Siona was just talking about. And then here is my executive summary. So this is what I'm gonna be focusing, like talking about mostly because the judges care about the most. So here you can see at the top, I just gave you a quick overview of the business. So I did it on UGG and my event was BOR. So the prompt was to talk about trying to solve the business disruptions from the past 6 months, which is basically COVID months. So a lot of businesses like failed, had to cut staff, et cetera, because of COVID. So we had to find a solution to kind of bring customers back, bring revenues back up. So that was the prompt. And so the company that me and my partner chose was UGG. So we just gave a quick overview of UGG at the top, just a couple sentences. And then we went into the ethics. So our written, we had like a main theme throughout, which is about like ethics and sustainability. So I highly recommend having some sort of overarching theme that your solution kind of goes into so that it's easier for the judges to understand where your solution is coming from. And it also makes it much more organized. So our theme was ethics and sustainability. So we went a little bit into how UGG is already kind of addressing the ethics. But then we went into the problem of kind of this problems that they had to shut down locations and then customers stopped shopping because they thought that UGG was like unsustainable. And then I just went over our research methods just with these like little graphics because you don't have to talk in paragraphs for the executive summary or just very quick overview. So you can just do bullet points, a couple words for each thing. So here, the research methods we used were observational studies. So basically just going into the store and just seeing what's happening, kind of seeing the customers and like how they interact with the employees. And then we also did a manager interview over the phone. So we called our local UGG store. Well, we called 2 UGG stores and just asked for the manager and they would be willing to answer a few questions. It's not that hard. I know it seems kind of daunting, but if you choose like a bigger company, then it really adds to your written to have a manager interview. So we did, and then we also did a customer survey. So we basically just made a Google form of some questions and then sent it out to people that we know shop at UGG and then had them send it to people. So we ended up getting around like 100 responses within like a pretty short time just because we sent it to a bunch of people. You don't necessarily need to put up like QR codes in the store or anything like that. Just send it to people you know, like go to the store or go to whatever that you're doing research on, and then they can send it to more people, and then it can just spread like that. And then we also just did online research, which is secondary research, and we'll put that on there too. And the next part is our findings and conclusions. So we just separated those 2 out and then added bullet points. We added like percentages that we got from like Google gives you like a pie. We just stuck that in here. And then conclusions was just kind of taking our findings and seeing what was like common across them. Then we came up with the conclusions. And then if you go to the proposed strategic plan here, for us, we had an acronym that kind of aligned with the 4 things that were part of our plan. You don't necessarily need to have an acronym. We just happened to find words that fit into an acronym. So it's just easier to remember when you're presenting and then easier for the judge to remember as well. Obviously, you don't need to put in like that much effort if you don't want to. It's just something that like makes it unique. And again, you want to find something that makes your written unique so the judges remember you. For ours, it was this acronym. So we just had like one sentence on each kind of part of our plan. And then over here, we kind of went over kind of these 4 parts of the budget align with these 4 parts of the plan, then the total budget. And then here for our budget, we just had kind of the proposed increase in sales. So we tried to go as much into detail with the budget as possible because with all the past judges that I've seen, they get really nitpicky with the finances. So as long as your finances are really strong, it's a way to not lose that many points. Also, a lot of the judge questions are around finances, or at least as I've seen. So make sure you know kind of what's happening with your budget. And then, are there any questions about this? Okay, and then, so this was just about our introduction. So we added like this target market kind of graph here, which basically summarizes what's happening in this paragraph. So in general, you want to have as many like visuals as possible, because like as Fiona said, the judge isn't going to read every single paragraph. They're mostly going to be skimming. And if you have visuals that summarize all your information, then it's going to be much easier for them to like see like the essence of your report. So here we just had like some pictures, and then we had like each different paragraph, and we tried to get as into detail as possible with each of these like descriptions of the community. And then there we just have an overview of like the current business. I'm gonna go over to the next page. So this is like, this top part is just a continuation of the kind of evaluation of what the business, what UGG was doing currently. So as you can see, we included like numbers and dates and like percentages of what was happening, so to be as detailed as we could get. And then the next big part is the research methods. So we decided to organize it like this, kind of visually, so it's like appealing for the judge to look at. So we just like listed out the 4 different types of research that we did. Went into detail about like what we actually did for the research. So here you can see like 13 questions surveyed to 66 UGG customers. So we just like put in the basic numbers there, and we also have to add a rationale. So like why you did the survey, or like what it helped you learn. So here for the survey, we just said it allowed us to collect data, et cetera, et cetera. So you need to make sure that you include kind of what your research is and then why you're doing your research. Okay, and then here, we just included a picture of the customer survey and then secondary research. Here you can see we included like a place to go find where this manager interview was, which is in Appendix B, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but I can show you what that looks like as well. And then for findings and conclusions, again, like I said, Google Form already gives you like the pie or like the data. So we just like copied and pasted those graphs into the key findings. And then we just summarized like a bunch of the percentages or like what we found common throughout these different types of research. And we organized it into boxes so that it's easier to see. Again, anything to make it easier to look at helps the judge, kind of makes them grade it better because they can see everything easier. Okay, and then just quickly over the conclusions. So again, like I said earlier, we just kind of drew 4 main conclusions and then just talked about those. And then here, this is something that's like really important, or like something that can add a lot to your written, is including a SWOT chart, a SWOT analysis. I don't know, how many of you guys know what a SWOT analysis already is? No one. Okay, so I'll introduce you to what it is. It's basically a chart that goes over strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the business. So we just went into what UG is already doing well, what UG is not doing well, and then what UG could do better on, like opportunities. So could be like adding new stores, or what we said here was like market penetration. So just going into more markets, like instead of just focusing on like boots, like UGG is known for, focus more on clothing. And then for threats, we just said like competitors. UGG is also known for having faced animal rights activism and like getting threats from them. So we just like summarize this into the SWOT chart. So this is a really good way to organize your conclusions. So again, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And then here is where we put our plan. So first, we just have like objectives. So what this plan is trying to solve basically, or what it's trying to do. So we just like listed out what our 5 objectives were, and then a paragraph just describing each of them. And then for the actual plan, we had like a good chunk of like content delving into like what the actual plan is and like marketing strategies associated with that plan. So here you can see like the first was the social media campaign. So we just described like what the campaign would do. In it, we wanted to do like a contest with winners. We give them money so that they can spend the money back into the business, and then kind of do that sort of thing. And then on the side, we just included a picture of what like a post to this campaign would look like. And then we did that for all 4 parts of our plan. So you can see we added like visuals. So this education about ethical practices was about like printing new tags so that they could see that the product they're buying is ethically sourced. So we just added a picture of what one of the tags might look like. So wherever you can include visuals, add them in. And then the other part of our plan was to implement an app. So we just went through like what that might be like. And then for our timeline, we organized it kind of into like a chart with boxes. So you can see each different part of our plan. So each of the 4 parts. And then we allotted separate times for designing each of the parts of the plan, and then launching, and then when it would end. So again, like Siona said, try to keep the timeline within like a 3-year range. So you don't want to go past 3 years because it can be like too much into the future. So we did this plan in 2020, and we ended up going around, we actually did this in 2021. So we ended up going around 4 years into the future. So that's what our timeline is like. But that is because we had some of these different aspects that would take more time, like setting up an app or printing new tags. We also had a part of the plan that was like training all the employees. So all those happening at the same time, like wouldn't exactly be feasible. So we ended up having to take 4 years to do the plan. And you can see kind of how we allotted the different time from like designing it, launching it, and then the dates that we ended it. And in general, you want to try to keep these dates as simple as possible. Like don't like calculate exactly how much time each part of the plan would take, kind of guesstimate. So we just estimated like 6 months for maybe designing, et cetera, et cetera. And then for the kind of key performance indicators, we just had kind of like you can see here, the goals that we wanted to achieve. So you can see like one example that we had was like implement customer engagement through the app by 20,000 people, or improve the in-store shopping experience. And then on the right side, it's like how we would see if we've actually achieved this goal. So like analyze the app usage, or do a customer survey, or analyze store ratings. So that kind of thing is what they're looking for the key performance indicators to measure effectiveness. And then I just quickly want to go over the budget. So here in these 4 boxes, we just have like all of the costs that would be associated with each part of the plan. We kind of explained it out in paragraph form. And then on the next page here, we kind of added it as line items so that they could like easily see everything that goes into each chunk of the plan, and then the total for that, and then the total overall. So it's just visually like easy to see what's happening. And then we also had a return on investment, which is not something that you need to have in your written, but it's like a really good value add because it shows that you've actually done your research and you know like what implementing this plan is going to add to that company. So that's what we had here. And then here you can just see our bibliography was just MLA citing our sources. And then appendix, we added kind of what questions we asked in the customer survey, and then what questions we asked of the manager interview, and then what they responded with. So yeah, just some key takeaways. Visuals are really important. So add in as many as possible and make your report as visually appealing as possible. And then also your executive summary is the most important part. So make sure you put effort into making that very understandable and readable, and that it like has all the important information. Okay, any questions? Okay, if not, you guys are free to go. Thank you so much for
Did they
coming.
take attendance? And did you tell them about mock conference?
Oh,
Quick announcement about mock conference.
yeah, so mock conference is November 13th, which is around 7 weeks from now. So you guys want to get started on your writtens because it's gonna take some time.
Don't procrastinate.
Yeah.
At the very least, know soon what business you're doing your project on.
And your mentors are here to help you. So if you need anything, you can just text your mentor, or you can text an officer. You can find their contact info on the website.
So this 20 pages document is due to November.
No. So 20 pages are due at the first conference, which is in January.
January 7th to 9th.
Yeah, so at the mock conference, you need your executive summary done.
Junior trip, okay, those of you guys that have junior trips, I think they're aware of this conflict, so they're gonna have you come back, I think, Thursday. So that you don't miss, because SV starts on Friday afternoon, you take your exam, and then a Saturday is the role play or the written exam.
Yeah, you'll take your exam Friday evening.
So, okay, everybody clear, come to the mock conference. Bye, Ryan. Ryan, have you been sticking up?
Why is it that you don't have-
Okay.